sometimes I get ridiculous. I'll eat up all your crackers and your licorice. Oh, yo, fat girl, come here, are you ticklish? Yeah, I called you fat. Look at me, I'm skinny. It never stopped me from getting busy. I'm a freak. I like the girls with the boom. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. I'm crazy. Allow me to amaze thee. They say I'm ugly, but it just don't faze me. I'm still getting in the girls' pants, and I even got my own dance.
The Humpty Dance is your chance to do the hump.
Come on.
Do the Humpty Hump.
Come on, I do the Humpty Hump. Check me out, y'all. I do the Humpty Hump. Just watch me do the Humpty Hump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing? Doing the Humpty Hump. Come on. I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. People say, yo, Humpty, you're really funny looking. That's alright, cause I get things cooking. You stare, you glare, you constantly try to compare me, but you can't get near me. I'm giving more C, and on the floor B, all the girls, they adore me. Oh yes, ladies, I'm really being sincere, cause in the 69, my Humpty nose will tickle your rear. My nose is big. I'm not ashamed, big like a pickle. I'm still getting paid. I get laid by the ladies, you know I'm in charge. Both how I'm living and my nose is large. I get stupid, I shoot an arrow like Cupid. I use a word that don't mean nothing, like Luke did. I sang on Do What You Like, and if you missed it, I'm the one who said just grab them in the biscuits. Also told you that I like to bite. Well, yeah, I guess it's obvious I also like to write. All you had to do was give Humpty a chance, and now I'm gonna do my dance.
The Humpty Dance is your chance to do the hump.
Come on. Yeah, sexy lady.
Do the Humpty
Come
Hump.
on, I'll do the Humpty Hump. Sexy baby. Everybody, come on and do the Humpty Hump. Do you know what we're doing? We're doing the Humpty Hump, y'all. I'll do the Humpty Hump. Watch me do the Humpty Hump. Yeah, that's the break, y'all. Let me know that bass groove right here. I do real, do red, do real, do red. Yeah. Now that I told y'all a little bit about myself, let me tell you a little bit about this dance. It's real easy to do. Check it out. First I limped to the side like my leg was broken, shaking and twitching, kinda like I was smoking. Crazy, whack, funky. People say you look like MC Hammer on crack, Humpty. That's alright, cause my body's in motion. It's supposed to look like a fit or a convulsion. Anyone can play this game. This is my dance, y'all. Humpty Hump's my name. No two people will do it the same. You got it down when you appear to be in pain. Humping, funkin', jumping, gig around, shaking your rump. And when a doodle chump punk points a finger like a stunt, tell him step off. I'm doing the hump.
The Humpty Dance is your chance to do the hump.
Everybody,
I do the Humpty Hump.
come on and do the Humpty Hump. Sexy lady,
I do the Humpty Hump.
I'm doing the Humpty Hump. We're doing the Humpty Hump, y'all. Watch me do the Humpty Hump.
I do the Humpty
Check it
Hump.
out, black people. I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Come on, white people. I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Puerto Ricans. I do the Humpty Hump. Just keep on doing the hump. Samoans.
I do the Humpty Hump.
Do the Humpty Hump. Yeah. Let's get stupid. I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Everybody do the Humpty Hump. Give me the Hillary. Come on and do the Humpty Hump. Do you know we're doing the Humpty Hump?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first Humday Nooner. Hey, this is welcome back to actually our third broadcast of Kurt in Real Time. My name is Kurt, and this is in real time, unless you're watching the recording of this. And if so, why is that? You've made me sad. Well, no pressure, though, no emotional coercion. I'm just going to assume you had a good reason not to be here live. But if you want to join us next time, ways to do that is make sure that you subscribe on the YouTube channel and you click on that bell. I'm starting to sound like an old person, aren't I? This is when older people use technology. Like I'm coming up on 50 and I'm starting to sound like my parents with a VCR. So what you do is you go on there and you click the bell and then you find out what time you want to be reminded. Anyways, that was my best Gus. What was that character from Saturday Night Live that Will Ferrell played? the mind. She's whatever. Anyways, we're glad. I'm glad it's just me. Unless I'm a man possessed by many demons, but that is probably a subject for a Sunday Go to Meeting live stream. But glad that you are able to join us for this first Humday Nooner. Also, if you're on Instagram, also another good way. Make sure you're following me there on Instagram and you click on your notifications so that you're notified whenever we go live. So that way you'll know when it's coming. But it's always coming at the same time. You can count on it. Sundays at 11 o'clock, Sunday Go to Meeting live stream. Mondays at 7 p.m. is our Case of the Mondays live streaming, where we talk about, I should say Sunday, we talk about religion and relationships. Monday, we talk about politics and economics. And then on Wednesday, we talk about sex and sexuality, hence the music and the name. And also with a little bit of American pop culture thrown in there as well. So glad to have you for that. On tap for today, what are some things we're talking about? Well, for the first time, because this is the first one, we have the monthly sex counter that I'm going to introduce. Totally voluntary. If you're watching this or you're watching the recording or the live stream, you don't have to answer. It's a private question. But if you're feeling transparent, we're going to do the monthly sex counter and talk about horny elephants. Why I'm just in general passionate about sex and sexuality, a little bit of my relevant background, why I like to talk about it, or why I like to have conversations about it. We're talking about how it's raining fantasy and a whodunit on TV streaming. So that's when we pivot into some of the American pop culture, which is mainly kind of like the arts, film, TV, books, music, all of that kind of stuff. The way that we typically communicate or have conversations about our values as a society. And like I said, the best and the worst of that, because some stuff is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And there's occasionally some things that are really enjoyable and perhaps even a little bit inspiring. We'll talk a little bit about that. And related to that, we'll pivot. I'm just going to tease 3 book reviews that I'm going to be at some point in time, reviews on this YouTube page and also on my blog that are about 3 books that I just recently completed. And speaking of my website, there it is, www.kirte for my middle name. If you want to know, okay, I don't give a shit. My middle name's Everett, so that's the Lewis.com. And that's my blog, podcast, catch-all, where you can find a lot of my thoughts and ramblings on a variety of subjects, most of them covering some of the things that we're talking about here in current real time. And so with that said, just glad to have you joining me again today. 3 times this week. It's been a lot of fun. All right, so let's get into it. So the sex counter. I don't know. We'll see how long this lasts. But I thought, it'd be interesting just to make as a part of a regular installment on our Humday Nooner episodes, which are short because I'm, like many of you, on a work break and working today. So in between on my work break, I'm choosing it to spend with you. And I can't think of a better way to spend my work break to share this time with you. But sex counter, I thought just for shits and giggles, it would be fun to, for those who are joining us live or eventually who will watch it, comment in the chat how many times so far this month you've had sex. I'm at 1. I'm at 1. And the reason why, and it's just because we were talking about sex and sexuality. It's just nice just to talk about the realities without getting into too much of the personal details. But the thing with it, it's not intended to do is to make people feel ashamed, because there could be a really good and healthy reason why that answer is 0. Not too long in the distant past, when I was going through the process of getting divorced and figuring a lot of things out in my life, including some relationships, I went almost like a year and 8 months without having sex, and that was very, very healthy. It was very good for me. And so Your answer might be 0, and it'd be amazing, very healthy. For me, and it also might be a lot, and that also might be healthy. It could also be a lot and can be for unhealthy reasons too. And hopefully those are things, this is just meant to kind of stir your thinking. It's like, why is this good? Am I feeling good about my sex life and my sexuality? Am I feeling authentic and satisfied? Those are the kind of things that I want to talk about partly for part of our time on the Humday Nooner live stream. So if you can feel free to put that in the comments and we'll talk more about it in the future. I'm hoping that more and more people will join us live for these. We also might, because this is the first week, I might make some tweaks down the road with schedule. And look at this. I love this. Best BCR. Thank you. I love it. Hi, Mr. Lewis. So far, it's been 2. Does masturbation count? Then it's been 4. Hey, sex with yourself can be a really important thing. So why not? It's on that answer is, I think you can determine that answer. And so, yeah, I think it's 2 for me then. So thanks for sharing that, BCR. I love the name too as well. Good. Just about sex and sexuality. Why am I passionate? Well, I think that I'm horny as an elephant. I got, I don't know if Amanda, can you hear me? Love? I don't know if she can hear me or not. I was just going to ask her, are elephants horny? Does anybody know an answer to that? What's the scientific question to that? I mean, we know every animal gets turned on, like that's normal. But besides the point, my point is that I have a large sex appetite for sex. I have an elephant-sized sex drive, and some people are different. Some people just crave it less. Some people crave it more. That's a beautiful thing about sexuality. There's no judgment. It's all about you being authentically you. But I'm pretty sure my partner could attest to that. And yet I'm a pretty kinky guy too. More on that another episode. But I also grew up, as I shared before, a little, especially from Sunday Go to Meeting, and I've shared on other podcasts that I've been a guest on. I also grew up. I was born in 1974 in a very conservative evangelical Christian household, and at the height of the rise of the religious right, as well as purity culture. And I have some really amazing female friends who have written and spoken so eloquently, and we'll talk more about that. Hopefully, I'll have some of them on as guests for future Humday Nooners. But I grew, and for those of you who are familiar with this, and there's a big part of the reason, one of my main motivations for these live streams is also to provide another platform or another community, another place for those who especially are recovering from religious trauma or spiritual trauma, coming from high control, high demand religious or spiritual communities, of which I am one of those individuals, having grown up in very conservative evangelical Christianity, in which purity rings. And the reason why I was mentioning the ladies earlier is because I feel very, in particular, women shouldered a massive amount of burden and pain for the concept of maintaining purity within the Christian community, within the marriage, within relationships. It was really all on them. But I like to also speak to it from the standpoint of a guy growing up in that context, who was deeply suppressing aspects of my sexuality and my interest in sex, because it was such a forbidden subject. And so, I just think that that is one of the main reasons why I wanted to dedicate some time on a weekly basis for us to subject. Let me see. I always get notes. I'm one of those people, by the way. There's no shame in, like, some people's like, oh, you're reading something. Well, that's okay. That's because I want to make sure I got all of my things down that I wanted to talk to you about. but it was difficult, and yet over time, and some of that I explored as an adolescent. It's like being exposed to, secretly and shamefully being exposed to things like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, or basically like HBO late at night, which became softcore porn. And we didn't have that, certainly in my house, evangelical Christian household. But I remember going over to like some of my friends sometimes on the weekend, spending all night and be like I still remember the first time that we watched, that I was over at a friend's and he put this on and he crashed, and I'm watching the movie 9.5 Weeks with Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger, a steamy R-rated, NC-17 rated movie that was on HBO Max. And it just completely shocked my brain because there was something there. Now it's very Hollywood, right? And there's a whole conversation for that in terms of realistic expectations and body image, more again for future episodes. But there was something I'm like, I knew even before that like I had interest. I was attracted. I had curiosities, but nothing that I could talk about, to eventually, finding, maybe a friend's Playboy magazine, things of that nature. This is not to sound like an older person, but this is all pre-internet. So porn was not as accessible. It felt like you had to like really, if you were that age and you're growing up in a household like mine, you had to really make some effort to try to get a hold of any kind of sexual material and just figure out what that's all about. So that's a big reason why I like talking about the subject. I've often kidded around, or actually not semi-kidded around, that it'd be an interesting field for me to eventually go into or get some credentialing in and help individuals process it. For the time being, I'm just going to talk about it. And hopefully we'll have some, like I said, some guests in the future who are real, true experts in this. But that's a little bit of my background, the reason why we have Humday Nooner. So that said, let me move on to the other two things. Let's start to pivot to American pop culture. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I have my favorite shows, and especially my partner Amanda and I. We have our favorite shows. My kids and I have our. We have. It's like for all four of us, including my youngest, who's 10. It's like, man, we like watching Bluey on Disney Plus every now and then, or we're watching actually a cool National Geographic series called Queens. Very cool on Disney Plus. Check that out if you have Disney Plus. Though, just be forewarned, it's pretty like intense, but it's all about females in the natural world. Hence, Queens. Very cool show, Disney or National Geographic series. But I mentioned in our intro that we were going to be looking at, it was Reigning Fantasy and Whodunits. And the two that are coming, that I'm mentioning or referring to there are the new Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2, for those of you who love Middle Earth, and every opportunity that you have to revisit Middle Earth. You love the Lord of the Rings, you love the Hobbit, and now back for Rings of Power. No spoilers. We're not talking spoilers in here, but I'll just say that, man, it's we've watched the first couple of episodes, and it's very, very intriguing. We're into it, so it's not there's no negative talk yet about it. We're enjoying it. But if I had to choose my favorite newest season or newest edition or new season to one of Amanda and I's favorite shows, and a lot of you who know me well know that for many, many years in particular, I love the comedy, the movie, the acting of Steve Martin. He's one of my it's just classic, and he's really smart, intellectual guy. A lot of people don't know that he studied and majored in philosophy in college. Once joked around that he said, I studied just enough philosophy to screw me up for the rest of my life. Love Steve Martin. And I also love his good friend, Martin, Steve Martin, Martin Short. So I cannot encourage you enough. If you like kind of interesting, warm, lighthearted whodunits, murder mysteries, is Only Murders in the Building. Of course, along with those two, you cannot forget Selena Gomez. She does just an amazing job. And the three of them are a lot of fun. And the show has become like the hot spot for A-listers and great actors and to come on and highlight and have cameos. It's just a wonderful, fun series. So if you did, go check out the newest season. If you haven't watched it, you got to go back. This is season 4. So, and then the only other thing that I'll note in the world of American popular culture, I'm being really positive today. I'll circle back around on occasion, and we'll talk about the stupid stuff in American pop culture, of which there's actually far more abundance. But I'm just going to keep it positive today and look at some of the things that I'm enjoying. But in the big news, if I'm correct, if I heard right, unless it's an internet rumor, it looks like they're bringing back Ted Lasso for another season. And I'll tell you what, man, I just canceled Apple Plus because that was literally the only reason why we had that platform. And yet, so now we're just gonna have to get it again whenever those start coming out. So that's a little bit about some shows that I think they're interesting. Don't spend all your time on the TV streaming. Go out, ride a bike. We enjoyed a lovely weekend riding along the American River here in Sacramento, California. So don't let it consume you. It's like the old book, Amusing Yourselves to Death by Neil Postman. I need to reread that book again because that was really, this is all before a lot of like TV and streaming went crazy. A really great book. Probably worth a read and a reflection and reflecting on because of the pool to spend so much time. But if you have a limited amount of time, those are some good options. But books, I just also mentioned that I'm going to be doing some book reviews on my website. You see it there, the CurdyLewis.com, and they'll probably be video reviews, so they'll be pre-recorded, and I'll post them also on YouTube as well, so you can watch them on here. Make sure again that you subscribe and click on the bell, I finished 3 books recently. I teased them in a lot of my posts about that they were focused on Jesus rock and roll, revisiting Iraq, and talking culty. And those, let me see if I can find those. I thought I uploaded those pictures. Let me see if I did or not. I thought I did. I'm going to do it right now. But those are some great, let me share some great books that I think are very much worth a look. Where are they? Oh, man. Hang in there, crew. This is worth it. There we are. All right, now I found it. I'm sorry, this is on a shaky platform, so if the screen shakes, just forgive me. Hey, what can I say? I'm getting used to this. Okay, here's the $3. Wanted to find them. Come on now, work with me. There they are. Boom. And let's put them up on the screen. All right. These 3 books, The Language of Fanaticism, Cultish by Amanda Montell. Also, Imperial Life in the Emerald City, Inside Iraq's Green Zone by Rajiv. Oh boy, I'm going to murder his last name, and I should have looked it up in advance to make sure that I had to pronounce it right, but Chandrasekaran. Forgive me, man, if I screwed up the last name, I apologize. But who's a Washington Post reporter, if I remember right. And also God Gave Rock and Roll to You by Leah Payne, who I'm now following on Instagram as well. finished all three of these books probably in the last month and a half or so. The language of fanaticism and cultish, obviously, you know, from my passion around the subject of religious trauma and recovery from religious trauma and talking about religions and cults, that this is a really, really fascinating book, and encourage you to also look her up and find her on her social media handles. I'll try to drop some of those links in the chat when we're all said and done here. But just a really fantastic book looking at how language, how words are used in cults to really captivate people who are bright, it isn't the age-old, you know, kind of assumption that it's like, oh, people who fall into cults, it's because they're uneducated or what have you. It's like, no, there's a lot of people who are very brilliant and bright, and for a number of reasons get drawn into cults, and looking at the words and when you start to do that, it's kind of like you just see cults everywhere. In fact, there's a really good argument to be made that really everybody's in a cult. The cults kind of fall along the spectrum of kind of harmless and to those that are truly, you know, cruel and very destructive to individuals' lives and communities' lives, families' lives. But highly recommend cultish. I'll be giving a little bit more detailed book reviews sometime over the next several weeks on these books. Imperial Life in the Emerald City is one that is particularly important to me because it was used in a very roundabout way as the inspiration for a movie called The Green Zone, starring Matt Damon. The reason why that's really significant, and I've been meaning to read this book for a long time, and that book, it talks about the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 and the years afterwards, and just how horrifically botched and executed, not to even consider how the motivation behind it is highly dubious, if not just morally reprehensible. But looking at how the U.S. government and military responded particularly the aftermath of the initial invasion and the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime in Iraq. And this book, like I said, was an inspiration for the movie, The Green Zone, starring Matt Damon. The reason why that's important in my life is that book is literally about one of my life experiences. Matt Damon in that book is portraying somebody named Chief Gonzalez, who was my chief when I was in the Army and I deployed to Iraq. I was on the team. It was highlighted in the story, The Green Zone, with Matt Damon. In fact, my chief, along with another person who was a part of my unit, was an advisor to those films, and it was painful, honestly, really painful reading through it to just learn more about every facet of the corruption and the incompetence that was involved, that ended up leading to not only the deaths of thousands of U.S. military personnel, but even more so the massive amount of casualties and fatalities of Iraqis. And one could ultimately argue that it was that destabilization that ultimately led to the rise of ISIS, which led to eventually the conflict and war in Syria, that led to one of the largest mass refugee displacements of our lifetime. And so another excellent book. I'll be doing what I call a dog-eared review of all of these books. And then lastly, God Gave Rock and Roll to You by Leah Payne. I can't begin to tell you how helpful this book was. As somebody who grew up in evangelical Christian culture in the 70s and 80s into the early 90s, I graduated in 93. This book gave me like context. It gave me a sense of framing my own personal experience. Probably almost as good as another book called The Evangelicals, the Struggle to Shape America. There's another book, and I'll talk more about that at some point, probably in a Sunday Go to Meeting when we talk a little bit about, or on a Monday, Case of the Mondays, because it really blends American religion and nationalism with politics that are also involved in a lot of the other things that that I talk about. And so both three of those books, amazing books, highly commend that you check them out and be on the lookout for some reviews to come. Well, it is, believe it or not, we're almost up to lunchtime here. I just wanted to just say one more time, thank you for those of you who were able to join me live. For those of you who will check it out later and watch, I didn't see, so I got to go back to the comments. All right, thanks for those who take time to listen, be a part of this conversation, whether live or recorded. Again, just a reminder, please subscribe and click on the bell, add your notifications, all those things, so that way you can stay in the know. Eventually, I'd like to get up to a next goal would be to continue to build subscribers, to get up to 1,000 subscribers, because believe it or not, on YouTube, have 1,000 subscribers, you're also limited in terms of the number of people who can view a live stream. So I'd like to eventually bust outside of that box, and hopefully this will be just a great community for those who need it. Also, let me know your thoughts. Whether you drop in the comment here, but even also, again, if you go to the website, which again is right there, www.curtylewis.com, and the links in my bio on Instagram and on YouTube. There's a suggestion box on there where you can send me a private message and you can give me some feedback, thoughts on how to improve things. But you can also say, hey, I'd love to hear you talk about this, or have a guest on it. If there's somebody like, oh man, Kurt, you need to have so-and-so on, they would be fascinating to talk about some of these subjects that you're passionate about as well. I would love that. Make sure you go to the suggestion box and you fill that out. And with that said, we'll see you on next Sunday. We got a few days before the next Kurt in Real Time. Sunday, go to meeting. I'll be sharing on Instagram, especially what we'll be diving into on that next live stream. But with that said, I just really want to thank you again. And it's just too good. We got to close out with more Humpday.
Yeah. Go break it down.
Have a great rest of Humpday. Much love to all of you. And, please
Once again,
take
the
care.
underground is in the
Have a
house.
great rest of you
I'd like to
all.
send a shout out to the whole world. Keep on doing the Humpty dance. And to all the ladies, peace and humpiness forever.